This is an episode of Island Talk Story, recorded on August 24th, 2026.
Yes, it is.
Miriam Woolsey Reed. We are going to be discussing the rich, really transformative history of the Mānoa Valley. And, I was thinking, if you have ever felt completely overwhelmed by, like, a career pivot or a massive change in your life circumstances, Miriam's story is basically your ultimate playbook.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, Miriam's life provides this incredibly vivid, almost cinematic window into one of the most, drastic cultural and industrial shifts in modern history.
Right.
Because we are tracing a woman who literally bridged two entirely different worlds.
Yeah, she really did.
She moves from the ancient traditions of the Hawaiian Kingdom
Right.
directly into the fast-paced, professional corporate environment of the 20th century.
It's wild.
It is wild. And the way we are accessing this history today is, I think, what makes it so resonant. Because we're working from two very distinct archival sources.
And they really capture different eras of memory, don't they?
Exactly. They capture completely different vibes.
Right. The contrast between the tapes we have is just fascinating. It's not like reading a textbook at all. It's hearing the actual atmosphere of the past.
Yes.
So walk us through where these recordings actually come from.
Sure. So our first source is this audio tape that was recorded in 1980. And it is highly informal. I mean, It is essentially this really intimate gathering of friends and community members.
Yeah.
Just sitting together.
Yeah, you can really hear the room.
You can. Beatrice, who went by B Krause, is sort of guiding the conversation.
Yeah.
But there are multiple other voices in the room just kind of chiming in.
I love that.
Yeah, it has this incredibly warm, localized atmosphere. It feels like you've just, pulled up a chair in a living room and you're listening to the elders of community swap memories.
Yeah, that one has such a specific texture to it. Like you can almost hear the room breathing, you know?
Exactly, yeah. And then our second source provides this really nice structural counterpart to that.
Right.
Because it's a formal oral history interview. This one is from July 13, 2003, and it was recorded by Leela Gardner, specifically for the Moilili Community Center Oral History Project.
Oh, okay. So it's much more structured.
Very much so. So we end up with this beautiful synthesis, right? We have the casual community storytelling from the 80s, and it's anchored by this rigorous historical documentation from the early 2000s.
That's a great combination.
It really is. So our goal today is to just weave these distinct recordings together.
And to really understand Miriam, I feel like we cannot just start with her birth in 1911.
No, absolutely not.
Because her identity isn't just about who she was, right? It's about the physical ground she stood on.
Yes, the land is everything.
Right. We need to talk about her family's profound connection to the land in the valley, starting with her mother.
Definitely. I mean, to understand Miriam's immense capacity for adaptation, you really first have to look at her mother, Annie Kamaka'u'elechne.
Right.
Their family's presence in the Mānoa Valley wasn't arbitrary at all. Their home was named Keaulana, which translates to dawn or light.
Keaulana. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and this specific home sat on Royal Grant 1263 land.
Okay, now, for someone who isn't, steeped in Hawaiian land distribution history,
Yeah.
let's clarify what Royal Grant 1263 actually means, because this isn't just a standard property deed, right?
No, not at all.
This means her family had a direct, officially recognized lineage and relationship with the sovereign rulers of the islands, correct?
Precisely, yeah. Because during the period when private property was established in Hawaii, lands were distributed among the crown, the government, and the chiefs.
Right.
But certain grants were given to individuals who had specific standing or relationships with the monarchy.
Okay, I see.
So being on Royal Grant 1263 land
Wow.
meant they were intrinsically tied to the Hawaiian royalty.
That's a huge deal.
It's massive. It wasn't just some political affiliation, It was a deeply personal, lived relationship. And we actually see that play out super vividly in this one anecdote about Queen Emma.
Oh, this is one of my favorite details in the entire archive.
It's so good. So when Annie Kamaka'u'elechne was a young girl, Queen Emma happened to be passing through the area.
Just passing through the valley.
Right. And she stops to speak with Annie's grandmother. And the queen, she notices that young Annie is at home during the day.
Right, like, why aren't you in school?
Exactly. She asks why she isn't attending school. And the grandmother explains the logistical reality, which is that they lived deep in the valley and they simply had no transportation to get her all the way down to Honolulu for classes.
Which back then is a major trek.
Huge.
And Queen Emma, she doesn't offer them a carriage, right?
Nope.
She doesn't offer a royal escort or anything. She just looks at them and gives this two-word command. She just says, "You walk."
You walk. Just boom.
The sheer definitive force of that directive is stunning to me. It's an absolute mandate that, education transcends logistics.
Totally. And Annie obeyed.
Yeah, she did.
She began walking 4 miles each way every single day from the valley all the way down to the Fort Street School.
4 miles.
4 miles there, 4 miles back.
Yeah.
In the heat, before modern paved roads.
That is just incredible dedication.
But, the intervention from the Queen didn't stop at education.
Right.
Queen Emma actually bestowed a name upon Annie. She gave her the name Anemalia.
Anemalia.
Exactly, which is the Hawaiian translation of Anna Maria.
Which brings us right back to the hook we started with. Because the way Annie honored that relationship later in life is just this profound psychological statement.
It really is.
When Queen Emma passed away, Annie commemorated her death by taking that exact name, Anemalia, and getting it tattooed on her left arm.
Yes.
But, as we mentioned at the start, she had it done completely in reverse.
Yeah, backward.
Explain the mechanics of why someone would choose to do that, especially in that era.
Well, if we look at the historical context, right?
Yeah.
The monarchy was under immense pressure and eventual overthrow.
Right, things were getting very tense.
Extremely tense. So public displays of royal loyalty were becoming complicated.
Yeah.
Very complicated.
Yeah, I can imagine.
By tattooing the text in reverse, Annie took something that is usually meant for outward public display. I mean, that's what a tattoo is, right?
Right, usually it's for other people to see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But she turned it into this entirely internal, private communion.
Wow.
The only way she could read her royal name, Anemalia, was to stand in front of a mirror.
Just her in the mirror.
Just her. It was a daily, unbreakable reminder of her identity, her sovereign, and her resilience. And it was readable only by her.
It's just an internalization of her cultural identity. Like, she is literally writing her history onto her body, but keeping the meaning completely private.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. So this is the psychological and physical environment that Miriam is born into in 1911.
That's right.
She has this fiercely determined mother, she has deep royal ties, and they are living on ancestral land.
A very strong foundation.
Very strong. But what did Miriam's day-to-day childhood actually look like in the valley? Because it wasn't all just, heavy royal history.
Oh, no, not at all. It was a childhood of absolute hyper-local integration with nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the 1980 tape, Miriam describes her youth with such joy. She talks about running all over the valley barefoot, just completely unhindered by modern constraints.
I love that image.
But she explicitly notes that she wore overalls.
Right, right. And not as a fashion statement.
No, definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
She wore them as practical physical armor.
Armor against what?
The grass. The valley was overrun with California grass.
Oh, right.
And California grass is this incredibly rough, scratchy, invasive species. If you're running at top speed through it, it will literally tear your legs up.
Ouch. Yeah.
So the overalls were a functional tool that just allowed her to navigate this rugged terrain at her own pace.
Okay, so she's barefoot but armored in overalls.
Exactly.
There is that beautiful image she shares of sliding down the valley hills on tea leaves.
Oh, yes. The tea leaf sliding.
Which, for anyone who hasn't seen it, a tea leaf is broad, smooth, and incredibly durable.
Very tough leaves.
Yeah, so if you find a steep, muddy, or slick grass hill, you essentially use the leaf as a natural sled.
You just sit right on it and go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It has this pure, joyous utilization of the physical landscape for play.
It really is.
But the valley wasn't just her playground, right? It was literally her pharmacy.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where we see the depth of indigenous knowledge being passed down to her.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So when Miriam would inevitably get a cut or a scrape or some kind of wound while playing, which happens when you're running wild, she didn't run inside to grab a sterilized bandage from a first aid kit.
No Band-Aids.
No Band-Aids. She relied entirely on traditional Hawaiian herbal medicine.
Wow.
She would locate a hau tree, break off the young shoots or the fresh leaf buds, and she would chew them up in her mouth to create a natural poultice.
She chewed them herself.
Yep. And then she would apply that poultice directly to her bleeding leg to heal it.
Okay, let's break down the actual biology of why that works. Because honestly, it sounds like magic.
It really does.
But it's pure botanical science.
Right.
The how tree has sap and tissues that contain mucilage,
Okay.
which is basically a thick, gooey substance, as well as mild astringent and antibacterial properties.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when she chewed the shoots, her saliva mixed with those active compounds.
Making the poultice.
Exactly. When she applied it to a cut, it would physically bind to the wound, create a protective seal against dirt, and actually help contract the tissues to stop the bleeding.
That is amazing.
She was manufacturing her own localized medicine on demand.
Exactly. It's applied biochemistry, basically, but taught through generational practice rather than a textbook.
Right, just deep ingrained knowledge.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture of human development, think about the psychological foundation that builds for a kid.
I think about this constantly, actually, when I look at modern parenting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we have this whole movement today of like free-range kids, right?
Right.
Where we try to artificially manufacture these small moments of independence. Like letting a 10-year-old walk to the neighborhood park alone, but with a smartphone in their pocket.
Just in case?
Exactly, just in case. And we applaud ourselves for building their resilience.
Yeah.
But Miriam's version of independence is on a completely different planet.
Oh, entirely.
She possessed what we might call hyper-resilience.
I like that.
Yeah, the valley was her grocery store, her playground, and her trauma center.
Wow, yeah.
If you are a child who knows exactly which plant to chew on to stop your own physical bleeding, you develop a bedrock of self-sufficiency that is virtually unbreakable.
That is the perfect term for it, honestly.
Right.
Hyper-resilience.
Right.
You learn early on that the environment is not something to be feared or hidden from.
No.
It is a complex system
Oh.
that you are completely fluent in navigating.
Yeah, fluent is the word.
And Miriam was going to need every single ounce of that hyper-resilience.
Yeah.
Because the world she was so intimately fluent in was about to be irreversibly altered.
Yeah, things change fast.
They do. Which brings us to the thematic shift of her adolescence, really. She ends up watching the massive historical systems around her come to a complete end.
The idyllic barefoot days in the valley start colliding with the heavy reality of 20th century history.
Right.
In 1917, when Miriam is just 6 years old, she participates in something that carries a staggering historical weight.
Yes. Yes, she does. In 1917, Queen Liliʻuokalani passed away.
The last sovereign monarch of the Hawaiian Kingdom.
Exactly. And young Miriam marched in her formal funeral procession.
At 6 years old.
At 6.
Yeah.
She marched specifically as part of the natal sons and daughters of Hawaiian warriors.
Wow.
Which meant she even took a turn standing watch inside the church during the mourning period.
I want the listener to really picture that for a second. You know, you are a little girl who spends her days sliding down mud hills on tea leaves.
Right.
And suddenly you are placed in a formal procession, physically walking through the closing chapter of your people's monarchy.
It's heavy.
It is. You are bearing witness to the burial of a kingdom.
It's an immense burden of witness for a child.
Yeah.
And what is so striking is how that macro-level national historical grief was really mirroring the intense, crushing responsibilities happening in her own microenvironment at home.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because while the Hawaiian Kingdom was ending, her family was forcefully transitioning into the industrial era, literally just to survive.
Right. We need to talk about her mother, Annie, and the Mānoa Poi Factory.
Yes, the factory.
Because Miriam's father died when she was just 13 months old.
So young.
Yeah. So Annie, this widow with royal ties, is left to sustain her family entirely on her own.
And she does so by running the family's factory.
Right.
And we must be super clear about what this was.
Okay.
This was not a small, quiet backyard garden.
No.
This was a massive daily industrial operation running right in the middle of the valley.
Wait, I have to push back here for a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
I hear you calling this an industrial operation, but isn't that applying a very shiny modern corporate lens to what was essentially just desperate survival farming?
Well, I see what you're saying, but...
Because we have a tendency to romanticize the past, but we also have a tendency to overinflate it, right?
Sure.
She's a widow trying to feed her family. Is it really accurate to frame her as an industrial manager? Or was she just a farmer working herself to the bone?
That is a very fair pushback. I completely get why you'd ask that. But we have to look at the sheer mechanical scale and the logistics of what Annie was commanding.
Okay, lay it out for me.
Survival farming implies subsistence, right? Growing enough to feed your immediate family or maybe your village.
Right.
Annie was managing an operation with a heavy, diesel-powered engine chugging away in a tropical valley.
Oh, wow. A diesel engine in the valley?
Yes. and she employed 31 laborers.
31.
31 laborers. And they weren't just out there harvesting a little bit. They were processing thousands of pounds of kalo every single day to hit a massive commercial quota.
Okay, wow. When you put it in terms of the mechanics and the headcount, the picture changes entirely.
It does. Think about what it actually takes to run an early 20th century diesel engine in a humid, tropical environment.
Constant breakdowns, I imagine.
Constant. It requires nonstop mechanical maintenance, dealing with heavy iron parts, greasing pulleys, managing fuel logistics.
Right, you have to get the fuel up there.
Exactly. And on top of the manufacturing side, she was managing a complex distribution network.
For the poi.
Right. They had to load up horse and wagon teams to deliver this highly perishable product all across Honolulu.
Because it goes bad quickly.
Very quickly. They were delivering from the downtown area all the way to Waikiki before it spoiled.
So she's dealing with supply chain logistics, fleet management, payroll for 36 men, and heavy machinery maintenance.
Exactly.
Okay, I can see you're right. That is straight up industrial manufacturing.
It really is. And it represents a profound cultural friction, too.
How so?
Well, Keaulana is the absolute sacred staple of the Hawaiian diet and culture. Traditionally, it was cultivated and hand-pounded into poi on wooden boards with stone pounders.
It's very intimate.
Very. It was a quiet, rhythmic, communal practice. But Annie took that deeply traditional, culturally sacred process and basically forced it through the bottleneck of the Industrial Revolution.
Just to ensure her family's survival in a capitalist economy?
Yes. It was an incredible feat of adaptation on her part.
It's staggering, but, no amount of industrial adaptation or resilience can stop geology.
No. No, it can't.
The climax of this era of Miriam's life comes in 1923, and it is devastating.
It is. In 1923, a catastrophic storm hit.
Just a massive storm.
Massive. Floodwaters rushed down from Tantalus and cut violently into the Mānoa Valley.
And this wasn't just a normal flood.
No, this was not just a heavy rainstorm that overflowed the riverbanks. It was a topographical disaster.
The oral history descriptions of this event are just horrifying to listen to.
Truly.
The flood didn't just bring water into their property, it literally brought the side of the mountain down with it.
Yeah, a wall of earth.
It surged into their active agricultural infrastructure and absolutely decimated it.
Completely. And to understand why this was fatal to their factory, we have to explain the mechanics of a loe.
Yes, please do. Because I think people picture a pond.
Right, they do. But a loe isn't just a pond where you throw some plants. It is a highly engineered, meticulously graded wetland terrace.
It's architecture, almost.
Exactly. You have to build specific earth berms, you have to cultivate a precise clay base to hold the water, and manage a constant flowing system of cold, fresh water to prevent the kalo from rotting.
So the water has to be moving.
Yes, always moving. It is an act of hydrological engineering that was passed down through centuries.
Right. It is a delicate balance of physics and agriculture.
So when this flood came, it didn't just wash the plants away. It filled those engineered terraces with massive boulders, thick mountain mud, and just endless debris.
Just buried them.
Buried them. It destroyed the foundational grade and the clay base entirely.
And when a boulder field drops into a finely calibrated wetland terrace, you can't just, sweep it out over a long weekend.
No, definitely not.
Without modern heavy excavation machinery, that land is completely unrecoverable for that specific type of farming.
It's gone. The destruction was total and absolute. It permanently shut down the family factory.
They never made poi there again.
They never milled poi there again. In a matter of hours, the physical landscape of the valley was forever changed.
Wow.
And the agricultural era that had sustained their family for generations came to an abrupt, violent end.
Which brings us to, I think, the most crucial question of Miriam's life.
Okay.
How do you define yourself when the landscape that literally fed your family, the physical ground that provided your medicine and your livelihood, is just destroyed?
Well, it's a huge identity crisis.
Most people would retreat, right?
Yeah.
They would carry that trauma and become defined by the loss of the old world.
But Miriam doesn't retreat. She pivots entirely. And this is where we see that hyper-resilience from her childhood activate in a completely new arena.
Tell me about it.
So, moving into the late 1920s, she transitions into the modern professional era. But interestingly, the first place she directs her energy isn't an office, it's the ocean.
Yes, I love this part. She becomes a highly competitive athlete.
He does.
Which, if you think about it, makes perfect sense. Her whole life had been intensely physical up to this point.
Exactly. So she joined the Honolulu Rowing Club.
Okay.
And the specific detail she shares in the archives is key here. She wasn't just casually paddling in the calm, protected waters near the shore.
No, she was going out.
She was rowing far out past the harbor buoys.
Let's talk about the biomechanics and the psychology of that for a second.
Sure.
Because open ocean rowing is a brutal discipline.
Oh, incredibly brutal.
You aren't just pulling oars on flat water, you know. You are reading ocean swells. You're balancing a narrow hull against unpredictable currents and relying on total synchronized physical exhaustion with your crew.
Yes.
You have to have incredible core strength, perfect timing, and just absolute fearlessness.
It is a testament to her unrelenting drive. She took the raw, unbridled physical capability she built running through the California grass in the valley.
Right.
And she channeled it into a highly disciplined, structured, competitive sport.
That's amazing.
It proves she isn't afraid of the deep water, both literally and metaphorically.
And she applies that exact same fearlessness to her career.
She certainly does.
In 1929, while she is still a teenager, she steps out of the agricultural valley, she steps out of the rowing boats, and walks directly into the corporate sphere of downtown Honolulu.
Yep. She lands a job utilizing shorthanded home insurance of Hawaii.
I just want to pause and appreciate the sheer culture shock of this transition.
It's massive.
Think about the sensory environment here. She goes from a valley where she literally chewed how tree shoots to heal her cuts,
Right.
to a sterile, highly structured, male-dominated corporate office environment.
Huge contrast.
Many young women in 1929 stepping into their first corporate job would have just kept their heads down, taken notes, and tried to remain invisible.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Miriam is the daughter of Anemalia.
Yes, she is.
She doesn't do invisible.
Not at all.
She steps into this corporate office, and almost immediately, her analytical mind goes to work.
What does she see?
She looks around at how the insurance company is operating and realizes that their structural systems are a complete mess.
And what does she do? Despite being a teenager, despite being the new girl doing shorthand, she speaks right up to her boss.
She does?
She pitches a complete consolidation and overhaul of their entire outdated filing system.
We really have to understand what a filing system meant in a 1929 insurance company.
Yeah, paint that picture.
There were no digital databases.
Right, no computers.
An insurance company's entire existence relied on massive, redundant paper ledgers, policy carbons, and claim forms.
Just mountains of paper.
Mountains. If they were sorting policies purely alphabetically, or by geography, without a centralized cross-reference system, finding a single document could take hours of manual labor.
Wow, just to find one policy?
Yes, it was a massive bottleneck for corporate efficiency.
Right. And she doesn't just, complain that it's hard to find a file.
No.
She confidently proposes the architectural solution to fix their corporate infrastructure.
Exactly.
She likely proposed consolidating their disparate records into a streamlined, indexed system. She saw the inefficiency and had the absolute audacity to tell the men in charge how to fix their own company.
It reveals a brilliant systems-level thinker.
It really does.
The exact same mind that understood the complex mechanics of how plant sap interacts with human tissue in the valley now understands how data needs to flow through a corporate office.
That is such a great connection.
Yeah, she wasn't intimidated by the hierarchy because she possessed that innate bedrock of confidence.
Miriam is honestly like a human time lapse.
That's a good way to put it.
It is staggering to step back and look at it all. In a single youth, she goes from relying on ancient indigenous herbal medicine and mourning the last monarchs of a fallen kingdom to mastering corporate shorthand and streamlining complex organizational data systems for an insurance conglomerate.
It's a lot for one lifetime.
She embodies the entire rapid, often painful modernization of Hawaii in one single lifetime.
She really does. Her life is a masterclass in adaptation without erasure.
Yes, without erasure. That's key.
She didn't let the violent loss of the old world defeat her, nor did she let the sterile, imposing nature of the new corporate world intimidate her.
Right.
She simply navigated the transition with the exact same grace and sheer physical strength it took to row a boat past the ocean swells at the harbor buoys.
It's an incredible legacy, and I think there is a profound takeaway here for anyone listening today who feels like, the ground is just shifting beneath them. Whether it's an industry being wiped out by technology or a massive personal upheaval, Miriam proves that the skills you learn in the valley, the resilience, the ability to read systems, the sheer grit, They do not disappear when the valley floods.
No, they don't.
They just change shape.
That is a beautiful way to phrase it. And there's one final fascinating thought I want to leave everyone with today.
Oh, please.
So when we walk through these modernized paved neighborhoods today, just going about our lives,
Yeah.
how often do we actually consider the lost lo'i or the buried machinery and the sheer grit of the generations who navigated the transition from ancient kingdoms to the modern age?
We probably never think about it.
Right. Miriam's life challenges us to look deeper at the exact ground beneath our feet.
Wow. History doesn't just repeat itself. It's literally right under us. Once you understand the layers of history like that, the physical landscape you walk on never like the same again. Thank you so much for joining us on this in-depth exploration of the Mānoa Valley and the truly remarkable life of Miriam Woolsey Reed.